we could create a beautiful postcard or a brochure or a magazine or anything that you want, a newsletter for you. But if the messaging behind that isn't good, then whatever we create, no matter how pretty it is not going to be good.
Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. Welcome, everyone, to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. I'm here today with Kia Arian, and we are going to be talking about her and what she's doing with her company. I've known Kia for a long time now. I think we met back in 2015 when I started working at Great Legal Marketing. And we met with Kia every Wednesday, if I remember right. She came down to the GLM offices and we talked marketing for GLM and for Ben Law and discussed designs and kind of look back on those days fondly because, the time goes forward and we don't meet up every Wednesday anymore. But those are really informative times in my life. And I learned a lot from you and Ben during all of that. Um, well, I asked Kia to come on and be a guest, and she agreed. So I was really happy when she said she would join us here on the podcast. And so we're going to be talking with her today. And I did my introduction, so I'll go ahead and send it to Kia to let her talk a little bit about herself and introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Sib. Thank you for having me on your show. So excited to be here and talk with your listeners. So I am part of Zine. We call it Zine Marketing. It is a brand development agency currently in its current configuration. And we started off as a print um, design, print marketing. And that's how I actually met Ben, which is how you and I met. Ben was looking for some postcards. He got a direct mail piece from us, contacted us, and the rest is his history. And when I met Ben, he was the one who introduced me to better marketing. So the direct response marketing and, um, you know, all kinds of video marketing, online marketing. So really dove into that and we transformed our, I call it our dusty old print shop, which used to be a a retail print shop. Transformed that, brought in more marketing focus. I had already launched my design agency, which was called Zine Graphics at that time. And so we were doing high-end design and brought in the marketing because what I realized quickly was that we could create a beautiful postcard or a brochure or a magazine or anything that you want, a newsletter for you. But if the messaging behind that isn't good, then whatever we create, no matter how pretty it is not going to be good. And so that then reflects on us as a agency, as a printer, that what you created for me didn't work. And they'll think it's the design or they think it's, thousand other things. And it's, well, really what it is that your message doesn't work. So really dove into creating marketing messages and unique selling propositions and making sure that the marketing was correct. And then I realized, well, even going deeper into that, the marketing is really the brand development, which is what we're doing now.
It's really funny how marketing has evolved here just in the last recent years because in 2000, the 2010s when internet, marketing and digital marketing was coming up, there's real focus on tracking, tracking, tracking. And the message being put out there was like, you can track anything, like you can track all your marketing, improve exactly ROI. But I think what a lot of people have discovered is that the tracking isn't really that great. There's still a lot of like unknowns with digital marketing. And, I think just people had the mistaken impression that because everything was trackable, it would just be easy to create marketing that resonates with an audience and your brand. But I mean, that's really not the case. And I say all that to kind of come back to what you said about the marketing. The design really doesn't work if the message isn't there. And I just feel like a lot of people miss that. A lot of people just pick a headline and say, that's good. Let's go with it and this will work. Like, what do you think, like, people can do to sort of help start to refine their messaging and get it to where it's more marketable, I guess, or where they'd actually get a response?
So that is a really great point that you brought up, and there's like multi layers to it. I was actually having a conversation with a prospect yesterday who wanted to He's an attorney and he wanted to create a direct mail piece. And I was asking him about what marketing he had done in the past and how it worked out for him. And that was exactly what he said. He said, yeah, we did a newsletter for a little while. We did, some social media. We did this. He's like, I don't know if it worked. And what's happened, just like you said, Tiff, is the past 10 years. So really prior to that, say 20 years ago, even 25 years ago, everything was more easily trackable. And the strategy was, let's just throw it against the wall and see what sticks because we can track it really well. And let's see what sticks, and then we'll go with that. There wasn't really a whole lot of thought put into what should that message be, which you said, how do we create that? And I'm gonna get to that because that's super important. Really good point to really highlight for your listeners. But the idea of tracking, so now fast forward to today where technology and marketing and the channels and people's attention spans are like, 1,000 miles a minute, literally, and getting like more and more chaotic. And I call it chaotic because even 20 years ago, you had limited channels that demanded people's attention. Today, it's unlimited channels, unlimited all over the place. And um, there was a statistic that I was reading about yesterday where they actually did a study, and they said that um, they've discovered it used to be when I got into direct marketing, it used to be that you need at least 7 to 11 touches to the person that you're trying to convert to your client for them to like take notice and convert. 7 to 11. Do you know what it is today?
More than that, because I know there's just more stimuli out there, but I'm just gonna guess like 15.
47.
47?
They need to be exposed to some kind of content from you, some kind of, and let's call that your brand, right? Because that's the topic. They need to be exposed to something, some message, some email, something on social media, something in direct mail 47 times before it sticks and before they feel like for them to make a decision whether they resonate with you, whether they want to be in your circle. So it's because information has gotten so diffused and it's all over the place. And the more diffused something gets, the more chaotic it gets. And so then the conversation shifted to, well, how do we know that your newsletter is working or your website's working or whatever marketing, the social media? Sure, there's likes. Sure, there's engagement. Hey, I got your newsletter. And I'm going to focus on print marketing because that's my expertise. You can chime in with anything in digital. I'm not going to pretend to know, all the tracking that's happening in digital. You know that better than me by, a lot. And yeah, I got your newsletter. Oh, that was really nice. Thank you. And that's it. But does it actually contribute to a converted lead, to a case, to a client, to a new customer? And it's hard to pin that because they'll get your newsletter, they'll go on your website, they'll go on your social media, they might get an email from you, then they'll go on your website again, and then like 2 months later, they'll contact you and they'll be like, how'd you hear about us? I don't know. I think I saw you on Facebook. But really, it was that newsletter that like alerted them. But remember that because they've got like, 85 different messages coming at them at once. So what's the answer? Here's what I say. Continue to put invitations for them to engage. Continue to say, email us, contact us, go to this URL, let us know. Don't stop doing that. And number two, keep track of the trend, right? What we find, like our newsletter clients discover when they send a newsletter, phone calls go up. When they stop, they start to go down a little bit. Now, it all depends on what other marketing you're doing. If you're doing, paid ads, LSAs, whatever, that all has to be kept kept into consideration. But in general, they find that there's an upward trend, and you have to really have a lot of things at play. Don't just rely on your newsletter. Don't just rely on your LSAs. Don't just rely on referrals. The more channels that you have, the more you're going to increase your chances of people engaging with you, getting that the brand awareness of, oh, you're out there, you're putting messages out there. And that's really, so that was a really long discussion on tracking, But I do want to talk about your question was what's the message development? But let me stop there and like what are your thoughts? Like is that what you're seeing in your space with tracking?
Well, so classically tracking has really been focused on like bottom of the funnel. And even just 5 years ago, it was much harder to get that data than it is today. Like, so now today, like, I use Lead Docket really heavily with all of my, like, fractional CMO clients. So when an intake happens, we get data from the person doing the intake, we get data from CallRail, but it's all very bottom of the funnel stuff. And, what I have kind of discovered expanding my own horizons in marketing is that, that is just like one like tiny piece of the puzzle. And a lot of what newsletters and just this repeated exposure to a brand does is more top of funnel stuff. And all of that is tremendously difficult to track. And then people, we're stimulated all the time, like social media, I mean the internet in general. Before this podcast, I was listening to an audiobook on Spotify in the car earlier. I was listening to a couple podcasts and then I've been listening to music. Like just today, I've been online, like driving in my car, not, being distracted, but you know what I mean?
Mm.
And, that's just a lot for, one person to take in. And I receive so much stimulation. And then, to crack that for most people to like crack that like nut of attention and like see, get their attention and show them like your brand and who you are. That's really hard to do. And it's hard to do without like a certain like repeated exposure and frequency of exposure. And so, that's basically what I wanted to add to that. So like tracking now, like tracking the bottom of the funnel is super easy, but that's, we can't really track the top of funnel stuff, which is a lot of what you're talking about.
Exactly. And that's, I've heard it called fuzzy marketing. That's the, now like how you do that, the top of funnel. And you really do have to just put as many channels in place as you can and just show up. Like that really is the strategy. Show up and don't worry about who's, is this like, getting, how many am I getting? How many of these am I getting? Are people show up, follow the principles of inviting people to engage with you, whether through lead magnets, whatever it is, and just keep doing it and keep showing up and keep showing up. So, yeah, like not a, and so, but here's two things, two challenges to showing up. One is what do you show up with? Like, what do you talk about?
Yeah.
And two is you get tired of showing up, like doing the work and I'm not saying, it's not necessarily daily. I mean, I don't post daily on social media. I don't post daily on LinkedIn. I know you're supposed to. I don't email daily. I know there are marketers who say you should do that, and I respect that. I think that's great if you can do it daily. I can't. So that idea of a daily putting your brand out there tends to, you burn out. So that's another challenge. So, and here's the way that we approach it at Zine. And it's it's not for everybody because it tends to get a little esoteric, but it's going to be this approach is going to be for people who are advanced. They're mature in their marketing, they're mature in their careers, and they're ready for going a little deeper and making that connection with their market. They know who they're serving. They have a sense of where their strengths are, what their strike zone is. Maybe they don't have it zeroed in or dialed in, but they have a sense of it. And they know they're going in the right direction, but just need a little more guidance. And really, and that's kind of part one of the answer to what you said. Well, what do you do? What's that message? What's the message that you show up with? And it really is the three pillars. It's who are you talking to? Be as specific as you can. What problem are you solving for them? And what is the result that the transformational result that you can get for them? Now, notice none of this is about you or your service or how good you are or how you deliver your service. It doesn't matter. They don't care. You could tell them, jump on one foot, rub your tummy and your head, and you will solve this pressing problem and change your life in this way. And they will do that. So the how doesn't always matter. It's really being able to connect with their specific pain and the outcome that they want. And that's really the core of the message. And that's never changed from 100 years ago when David Ogilvy was, he was the copywriting master. And well, I don't know if it was 100 years ago, but you
Actually,
know.
that's a funny thing that you brought up because I have that book
There you
actually
go.
sitting over here because I was using some ad examples from Ogilvy
Right?
advertising earlier. Yeah.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change. It's here is the amazing outcome. So there are other principles that should be followed, like the book by Robert Cialdini.
Influence, the
Influence.
psychology and persuasion. You, okay. Calhoun.
It's an amazing book. It's timeless principles and other principles that should be followed besides, the core of the message, which the three pillars of your message. So what should you say? So that's like the ante to play. That's the baseline. Stop talking about your years of experience and how aggressive you are and what an amazing office you have. And watch out. I'm going to get back to the amazing office thing in a minute. But so that's the ante to play. Make sure that you know who you're talking to, what problem you're solving, the outcome you're giving them. And then to be remembered now, today, is going to be personality driven. And this works. And we're talking to people who have their, own businesses, mostly attorneys, right? You have your own business. You don't have like a, corporation with thousands of people. That's a whole different marketing approach to that and brand development strategy. But for the people who are listening to this podcast, your brand development strategy is going to be the personality that starts from you as the founder, the values that you have, your interests, the how you do life type of thing. And a lot of that can be discovered in the things that you love to do, which is what we encourage our clients to do. Don't manufacture a personal brand. Dig in to see what you love to do and bring that into your brand, bring that into your core values. And that's really how you want to step forward with the messaging. And when it's when you root it in what you love to do, then showing up every day or every week or every month, we talked about the show up, is fun. And it's not such a work that, oh my God, I got to show up again because you're just talking about things you love. So I hope that makes sense. Let me stop there to kind of process, here is the message. Here is the strategy, and here's how you get to show up without it feeling like it's so much work.
So something you said earlier, it reminded me the example I go to when I think about marketing is the weight loss industry because the weight loss industry is really good at marketing. And if you think about some of the more successful like weight loss marketing campaigns or trends or whatever you might call them, they always talk about how easy it is. But anyone who's tried to lose weight or who's actually lost weight knows that it is far from easy. It's a complete lifestyle change. But like nobody is going to buy into your weight loss program unless you make it easy somehow, unless you make it like we're just eliminating carbs. It's going to be super easy. Or we're calculating your Weight Watchers points super easy. Or it's Ozempic and it's just a shot and super easy. And so I think that's an important point because, I work with some of the attorneys I worked with, they talk about, let's spell out for our clients exactly what our processes are and what we do for them. And, I always have a hard time convincing them that like it seems like that's what they might want. And to a certain extent, it's good content. So I don't necessarily like dissuade anyone from making content. But that's not necessarily what potential clients are looking for. They're looking for a solution to their problem and they don't want to necessarily do a lot of work for it. And I think that's super important. Like we just have this impression that somebody, when they're have a legal issue, sometimes we think, oh, they're going to do a lot of research on their issue because that's what I would do. But no, that's what you as an attorney would do. That's what you as a business owner would do, a lot of research. But you're a slim portion of the population. You're not representative of the whole. Most people. I've talked about this a few times. I'm sorry to my frequent listeners who have heard this story, but I talked with a close friend who's going through a legal issue, and they decided to hire their attorney because their website looked professional. It was like the most professional looking website. And that just blew me away, because that's how that's how little information they took in before making a choice. And, they didn't look at client processes, case processes. They're like, I want somebody to solve my issue. And this law firm looks really well put together. And so, yeah, there's something else that you said there that I wanted to kind of spin off of, but we're almost changing topics. But like, I just wanted to kind of reiterate that, like, making it easy for your potential clients, like, is super important to making your marketing, like, more appealing and making your business more appealing to somebody who is looking to solve their legal issue, basically.
That's exactly right, and that goes to show up. So there's a show up in the different channels and the modalities, and then what you're saying is show up in the different message strategies, right? So you're exactly right. No, does everybody wanna know the process? Does everybody wanna know how you deliver your service? No, and like you said, maybe there's a slim part of the population that says, "Well, tell me everything I need to know about how my case is gonna proceed." So, if you can, provide that information. Like, so Ben Glass, right? We've both worked with, you worked for Ben Glass. He has that message, sort of the breadth of catering to how people process information. He does that well. So he's got all his, books and lead magnets that talk about how to select an attorney, how to settle your case. What is an ERISA case? Like, he provides that he provides that satisfaction to that population that wants to consume information, and they want to know your process. They want to know how you deliver. They want to know your 150 years in, legal and all of that. So he has that. He's like, "Here, come to this table." But the other people, most people, especially looking for attorneys, they just want to know that you can solve their problem. They don't want to learn how to be an attorney. They don't want a textbook about the law and court procedures and, documents. They don't care. They just want to know that you can solve their problem. They want to like you, they want to trust you. And so then you provide a table that says, "Hey, here's who I am." So using Ben Glass as an example. I'm a youth referee. I'm a youth soccer referee. I have 9 kids and 15 grandkids. I enjoy this. I help businesses. So now they get to know Ben. They don't care, like, oh, like you said, like the website, right? They're just looking for something to make that decision. Like, I like this person. This person is put together. They care about their success. If they care about their website, they care about their success. So they're going to care about me, right? That's sort of how they're making the decision. So, yes, show up in multiple ways in the modalities, show up in different ways in your message. And it's either give them the processes that you follow that makes it easy, tells them this is going to be easy, but also give them the outcomes that they're looking for. So, yeah, it's just, that's the whole chaos of it. It's expanded so much that you really do have to kind of try to check as many boxes as you can.
You said something there that is worth repeating, and it's about heuristics. It's about the mental shortcuts that people take whenever they're making a decision. And, like, the easy thing is reviews, like on Amazon. We're looking for reasons to make, or we're looking for reasons that this might be the right decision. I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but it was somewhere along those lines. Like the shelf, kind of, you might see behind me, listeners can't see it, but I have a shelf that's on its side getting ready to get put up on the wall. And when I was shopping for it, like, I knew what kind of shelf I wanted, and there were like 16 different options, but I was looking for the one thing, I don't even remember what it was, that signaled to me, like, this is the shelf for me. And, like, I think people miss that. We start to think too deeply about what our clients might do, like, within our funnel. And we also, I think, well, kind of spinning off something else that you said, um, I think people underestimate how much research is being done about you and your law firm that you aren't seeing from a marketing tracking perspective. Think about somebody who visits your website and then checks you out on social media. They're a website hit. They're not a lead. They're not showing up in lead docket. And I think we underestimate, like, how often that happens. And one of the more successful and kind of easily repeatable campaigns like I can build for my clients is a retargeting campaign using Facebook. And we're showing ads to people who have visited the website. And I think people just kind of perceive that as being a little bit lower value than a PPC ad because you're not reaching like new people. But they underestimate the power of it because you're not really focusing on all of those people who are researching your firm without calling your firm, and like showing up with those resources and with those ebooks is just another way to like again show up in their lives and in their feed somehow. And also, they may download the ebook, they may not, they may read it, they may not, whatever. But it's just another way that you're showing up with value. And, I think a lot of people mistakenly see the ebooks and the webinars and all of that stuff as like, these are how new people are going to find us. But really, the way I look at them is like, these are how we're going to convert the people who have already found us. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to play off that, but what you were talking about made me think of all of that, and I think all of that's super important.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's an excellent point because it's well known that an existing prospect that's already found you, that's already kind of connected, knows your message, it's much cheaper and easier to convert them to a client than to constantly go find new leads. It's much more expensive to find new leads and add them. So, 100%, if they already came in through your doors and they're in your space of kind of wondering and knowing that, you've got a message, focus on them. Do the retargeting, do the nurture marketing. If you do direct mail, stay in front of them. So I think that that's very important. And yes, focusing on the people who you already got their attention, because attention is a rare, what do they call it? A scarce. Um, attention is scarce. It's
Yeah.
something valuable to get from people. So once you have it, definitely leverage it.
So one question I had for you, actually two. I don't know if we'll get to the second one maybe, but so one of the questions I had, will you tell me a little bit about like your recent like challenges that you've gone through and your recent successes and just share a little bit of that with the listener? Like what are some of the things that you're working on right now that are something you may want to talk about?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd love to do that. So, um, let me start with the challenges, which I think is a challenge for many business owners, law firms. And what we just finished talking about is finding new leads. I mean, I mean, I've been in business 20 years, Tiff, and it's gotten harder and harder. Um, and what happens is that your burnout rate with the people who you've already brought into your, I call it like your store, um, the burnout rate is faster because there's so much out there that they're paying attention to now.
Yeah.
And so then they start to get sort of deaf to your message. Not to say that you shouldn't, like keep showing up, right? The show up principle, keep showing up. But that just means you have to replenish constantly. That's been one of our number one challenge. And so for me to overcome that challenge, I did everything I could, right? And there's many different ways, and you probably know even better, or combined brains could cover, how to grow your audience so more people are paying attention to you. Um, I know it in the direct mail world, not so much in the digital world, but it's a you know, I just it was hard and I didn't love it. Like it wasn't work that I loved to do. Finding new leads and growing my audience. And then but once the people are in it, what I knew I loved to do was zero in on the things that we're really good at. So I decided, well, instead of being this general, like we do all these different marketing things over the years, we've really narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And over the past 3 years specifically, got rid of a lot of the different types of services that we provided in mostly in like print and design and marketing, and just focused on the things that we know we're really good at and we love doing. So there's newsletters, like we think they're amazing and they get great results, limited direct mail, and then some authority building and credibility building type um, um, programs we offer in program format, such as a magazine, like you have a face on a magazine, and shock and all box marketing, which when you show up with a shock and all box and the strategies that, we teach, people are like, wow, like, you're really remembered because no one's doing that. Very few people are doing that. So we zeroed in on that. For me personally, I love the brand discovery process of helping people discover what is it that you're really making a difference. But not only making a difference for your clients, but what is it that you love that feels aligned with what you do? Because if it's not aligned, you're going to stop, you're going to burn out, and you're not going to really give it your all. So that's been a win for my agency and my team. Just really niching and focusing on the things that we truly love to do. It makes it more enjoyable for me. It makes it more impactful for our clients. And when we have prospects that come, our clients walk with us or work with us, that's where I try to, guide them to is what is it that you really love and how can we bring that into what you're doing? So let me give you an example. I said earlier, I said, don't talk about what an amazing office you have, but I put a bookmark there. I said, I want to come back to that. Okay. Right. So I was talking to, so like, there's no hardcore rule for everything. Like, yes, do these things and don't do these things, but break the rules when you have to. So I was talking to a prospect yesterday. He's looking to do a direct mail, something because he stumbled upon a unique brand asset that he was like, we did not even think this was going to blow up the way it did. So they moved their offices about 4 or 5 years ago, and they bought a building. So the building was an old historic building that used to house
The
like Shriners
Illuminati.
or these. Say it again.
The Illuminati.
Mason, I'm like, I don't know. But it's a beautiful building that was in this neighborhood that was like gentrified and renovated. And so they bought it, and instead of tearing it down and creating like condos or whatever, they restored it to this historic, um, the historic facade and everything. And it's a beautiful space. It's the outside, everything's been like, he was like, we're getting so many comments from the neighborhood. Thank you for maintaining this. Thank you. This is amazing. And they've hosted things. They've got this beautiful lobby in there. It's 5,000 square feet space. They got so anyway, this ended up being this centerpiece in their neighborhood. And he's like, we need to leverage this. And they want to do like a direct mail and so forth. So no, don't brag about your office unless it's a historic building that you renovated and you made your neighborhood happy. So now he's got something to talk about with his audience, with his prospects. That's interesting. It's unique. It's not about I love, it's not about like his process or it's about this unique experience and how he's serving the community. It's not about what a great lawyer he is and, here's how much money we've won for our clients. Don't not talk about that, but that's not going to be enough.
Yeah. And the power of community marketing and like doing something nice for the community and the word of mouth that builds is so powerful. Some of my clients are getting really heavy into that and doing just like repeated community events and just seeing referrals just go up each time we go out and like host a barbecue or something like that. And never understate that. And like if you're doing something cool like renovating a historic office, like yeah, leverage that. That's incredible. Like anytime you have an edge, like leverage it. I mean, it's if you can, make a big deal, feature it in your marketing and that's what makes you unique. And I believe like everyone has something that makes them unique that they can, leverage and put out there. My youth pastor, who's older than he was when he was my youth pastor, he's out there making TikToks about his church, and I just love it, and I just think it's so cute. And I mean, you might look at that and think like, oh, that's so dull, but this guy gets like a couple hundred likes each time you post a video. Like there's a lid for every pot, I guess. It's kind of more when you're talking about relationships, but like, people like people. People don't necessarily love brands. I mean, branding is important, but putting yourself out there and getting engaged with the community, I mean, you really can't understate how important that is and how powerful that can be.
100%. I love that you pointed this out because it's there's two things that are really important about what you just pointed out. One is everybody has a message. But what I find, because we do the brand development work with our clients, they're when they're shy, they're embarrassed, they think it's not professional, it's going to reduce sort of their, I'm a lawyer or whatever. So they're shy about putting it out there. Or they think it's like boring. They're like, who's interested in that? Or they think it's dumb, or they're like, that how is that going to make me interesting? But just like you said, you'd be shocked at what people find interesting because there's this famine of true connection, truly. And to your point, the community marketing provides that connection. People are craving true connection. So put on a barbecue, put on a meetup, put on something where you bring the community together, where you meet one on one with somebody, and that's gonna go a long way into setting you apart from all these other law firms or all these other brands. So I think those are really key points that need to. And a lot of people, some of these trainers are good at doing the community marketing. They understand that, but it's like relax a little bit, like be fun. Do the things that you love and talk about those things that you love. That's more than just being a lawyer or being, I had a meeting with one of our newsletter clients, and he's a great writer, great marketer, really smart guy. And he writes these great articles in his newsletter that are follow the formula. They're like, bring in some sort of story, personal story, and plug it into why that makes you a great lawyer and why that makes you a great law firm. And he was following that formula really well. I said to him, I said, these are really good, but why don't you just talk about what you love? You don't need to keep pushing your legal services. And I'm like, what do you love? He's like, I love building businesses. He's like, and I love, he's like, I wanna run a food truck one day. I'm like, do that. Like, talk about that. And don't worry about it. Within like so random, right? And he loves, like, he's a fitness fanatic. And I'm like, talk about fitness. Talk about your entrepreneurial, like, passions. Don't worry about whether or not that connects you to your law firm. Now, in our newsletters, we always have sections that always tell people, I'm a lawyer, here's what I do, here's how I can help, here's how I contact. Always have that. But then when you're connecting with people, you don't need to keep talking about you're a great lawyer. So connecting with people on a very personal level, definitely a key takeaway.
We're coming up a little bit close to the end of the podcast, but I do want to offer just to build on what you were saying. But the funniest advice I've had to start giving attorneys when it comes to TikTok content or vertical video really is like, hey, I need you to smile for the camera. Because like the instinct is like, hi, my name is attorney and here's the information you need, and just keeping it straight and delivering it straight. But people really love that personality. And so I tell them like smile for the camera, act happy for the camera, please. And when they do, it just brings such a life to it. That just changes the tone, and people just connect with that.
Uh,
And well, but before we wrap up, Kia, do you want to tell everyone how to reach you, how to find you?
I offer a vision discovery. It's a 30-minute vision discovery where you can schedule a call with me and just see what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what the vision is, if there is a vision, and how you're doing it, and what the next step would be. So, any of your listeners, I'm happy to offer that. They can just go to yourvisiondiscovery.com and request to schedule a call, and they'll get the link. And let's just get on a call and see what you're doing. No selling, no none of that. And usually what I do is I kind of give you some ideas, ask some questions to get you to think a little deeper. So I'm happy to offer that. And I also have an active LinkedIn. I have an active Instagram and Facebook that I post a lot of information and fun stuff too. So please, follow me there. Also have a podcast, the Results Driven Life podcast by design, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And I have a lot of great guests. You and I just finished doing one. So that was a great conversation. People want to get to know more about you and kind of behind the scenes. So yeah, I'm following what I teach. I just show up as many places as you can and do what you love and talk about what you love, and life is good. So I hope that some of your listeners at least will join me in that.
Well, we really appreciate you, Kia. Thanks so much for joining us today. It was a excellent conversation, and I guess we'll catch you again another time. Thank you so much.
Love that. Thank you so much, Tiff.